Greece's Conservative Prime Minister has won the national elections, hailing his party's big victory as a political earthquake. Charles Alpha will bring us the details now.
Greece's ruling New Democracy Party had victory in the parliamentary election on Sunday, but fell short of the threshold needed to form a government on its own, making a runoff election in a month most likely. Most votes counted, Conservative New Democracy took a commanding lead of 40.8%, trouncing the radical leftist Syriza, which governed from 2015 to 2019, and polled 20.1%. Greece's Interior Minister projected New Democracy could win 145 seats in parliament, but 6 short of an absolute majority. From Monday, Greek President Katrina Sakellaropoulou will give the top 3 parties, New Democracy, Syriza and the Socialist PASOK, 3 days each in turn to form a coalition government. If they all fail, Sakellaropoulou will appoint a caretaker government to prepare new elections about a month later. The ballot results are decisive. They show that New Democracy has the approval of the people to rule, strong and autonomous. The result was a stunning boost for Mitsotakis, whose administration had to contend with a wiretapping scandal, the COVID pandemic, a cost of living crisis, and a deadly rail crash in February, which triggered public outrage.
Every year, instead of improving, things are getting worse. Things are expensive. Every day, things are getting out of control.
Expected them to be lower than last time because of the events of the past few years. The tragedy that we had in Tebi with the rail, with the train, the wildfires that happened in Greece, the housing crisis.
I have low expectations because unfortunately people don't understand. They vote for the same people over and over again.
Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Peter Limjaroenian, head of Thailand's Move Forward Party, signs a memorandum of understanding with Chonlanan Srikhao, head of the Pheu Thai Party, and other political party leaders. The 80-party coalition headed by the progressive MFP announces ambitious plans to rewrite the constitution, end military conscription, and allow same-sex marriage, but made no mention of highly controversial proposals to change royal insult laws.
The Memorandum of Understanding is about shared values, shared commonalities, shared agenda, and also shared accountability. Because we're here today, right in front of you, right in front of the media, right in front of the international community. So I think that shows some sense of accountability of this Memorandum of Understanding, which is the first time in Thai political history.
After shocking Thailand's military-backed elite with a historic election breakthrough, the Move Forward Party now wants to take on the nation's biggest political taboo, laws on insulting the monarchy. However, MFP leader determination to modify the laws protecting the king has quickly emerged as a key issue that could block his path to power. The monarchy has long had an exalted status in Thai society and is shielded from criticism by Section 112 of the Penal Code, which punishes infractions with jail terms of up to 15 years. The United States and Papua New Guinea have signed a security agreement that includes giving U.S. forces access to the Pacific nations' waters and ports. Uche Ugochukwu reports.
The defense cooperation agreements drafted by Papua New Guinea, PNG, and the United States as equal and sovereign partners is expected to enhance Papua New Guinea's defense forces' capability to deliver humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, including through providing medical care and temporary shelter to those who are affected by crisis. During the signing ceremony, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the agreement will also make it easy for PNG and U.S. forces to train together in new ways and in more places as part of joint efforts to uphold peace and security across the Indo-Pacific.
We are deeply invested in the Indo-Pacific because our planet's future is being written here. And Papua New Guinea is playing a critical role in shaping that future.
Blinken said another pact signed Monday will allow Papua New Guinea forces and the U.S. Coast Guard to cooperate on countering illicit maritime activities, including illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. The agreement comes amid a U.S. focus on the region and concern about China's influence. Blinken visited Papua New Guinea in place of U.S. President Joe Biden, who cancelled what would have been the first visit by a sitting U.S. leader to a Pacific island country because of ongoing negotiations to avert a debt crisis at home. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
United Nations International Day for Biological Diversity this year, 2023, is shifting focus to the implementation of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework agreed upon in December 2022 to promote action for the protection and preservation of nature. Onenge Fineface reports.
Although every Biodiversity Day carries its own special significance, this year's global celebration brings with it a renewed sense of hope with the adoption of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework at the 15th Conference of Parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15. To mark this achievement, the proposal for this year's theme is From Agreement to Action, Build Back Biodiversity, which builds on the results of COP15.
The Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework is our global plan to repair this web of life and to sustain all life on Earth, including our very own. With only 7 years to implement the framework, we must all act now, and we must continue to act until our web of life is secure for us and for the generations to come, and indeed for every species on this planet.
Worried that loss of biodiversity threatens all, including human health, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wants parties to the UN Convention on Biodiversity to take bold steps to implement the Global Biodiversity Framework.
This means ensuring sustainable production and consumption patterns, redirecting subsidies from nature-destroying activities towards green solutions, recognizing the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities, the strongest guardians of our world's biodiversity, and pushing governments and businesses to take stronger and faster action against biodiversity loss and the climate crisis.
Governments need to urgently develop national targets to align with the targets and goals of the framework and to put in place policies and programs to achieve them. Businesses need to assess and disclose impacts and pivot towards sustainable practices. You and I need to reduce waste and shift to more sustainable consumption.
It has been proven that biodiversity loss could expand zoonosis, diseases transmitted from animals to humans, while on the other hand, if kept intact, biodiversity offers excellent tools to fight against pandemics like those caused by coronavirus.
This International Day for the Biological Biodiversity is our collective opportunity for working towards global food security while protecting biodiversity, for better production, better nutrition, a better environment, a better life for all, leaving no one behind.
By celebrating the International Day for Biological Diversity, the United Nations hopes to also raise awareness about species extinction caused mostly by human activities. Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
And to speak more on that, joining us via Zoom from Port Harcourt is the President of the Green Way of Life Initiative, Victoria Inyechi. Thank you very much for joining us on the news.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, the Global Biodiversity Framework agreed upon by members of the United Nations Convention on the Biodiversity in 2022 seems to be a major breakthrough, you agree with me. Now, it's Almost a year. Do you think the world is on track to halt biodiversity loss that is in line with the global framework?
Well, I think that there is a lot more that they need to do. I agree that having the agreement is a major step, but we need to actually go from agreement to action. And if we are looking at preserving at least 30% of the world's land, the coastal area, the inland waters, and the ocean by 2030, to move from about 70% where we are now, then we need to do much more than talk. We need to begin to implement these things. And I don't think that a lot of implementations have been done, especially in our own part of the world. There are some areas where they are meeting targets, but in majority of the areas they are not meeting targets, or at least the targets are not being reported. So we don't have enough data to say that the world is doing enough globally. No, they need to do much more than we are currently doing.
I like the fact you mentioned is a call to action. Now, governments, corporate organizations, and individuals are expected to play a role if we must conserve biodiversity. Now, how can we achieve this, especially in Nigeria?
First, we need to actually create more awareness, because until people, have that awareness and know the value of biodiversity, they will not see the need to conserve it. When people know that without biodiversity, that we are actually putting life on Earth at risk, that humanity is at risk when the things we depend on go extinct. If we continue, the rate at which we are going, that we are putting life on Earth at risk. When that awareness is known, that is the first step, because I don't think that government is creating enough awareness. For some persons, they just see it as more of an academic thing. Every year we gather, we talk about biodiversity loss. They don't see the correlation between the disappearance of, say, the butterfly and the availability of fruits in, the society. They don't see the relationship between the earthworm and the fertility of the soil.
Okay, but you agree with me that it's a win-win situation. Let's look at the role of civil society. Victoria, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, you were talking about government not doing enough. I'm saying it's a win-win situation. Civil societies also have roles to play, and NGOs like the Green Way of Life Initiative, which you're the president, also has a role to play if we have to build back biodiversity, which is actually the theme for this year. What's your role in all of this?
Well, we've been doing a lot of awareness creation. We've been doing tree planting. We've partnered with other NGOs to ensure that people are aware of the value of biodiversity. Because as I said earlier, the first thing is in creating awareness. So we've done a lot of such, sensitization. And not just sensitization, we've actually planted trees and all that.
All right, thank you very much, Victoria, for your time on the news. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. All right, let's turn to other issues. China bans U.S. chip maker Micron from selling to Chinese companies working on key infrastructure projects in a major escalation of an ongoing battle between the world's top economies, over access to crucial technology. Uche Ugochukwu will tell us about it.
Beijing defines its ban on U.S. semiconductor giants Micron's products as a necessary measure to protect national security after its cybersecurity watchdog told operators to stop buying the chip maker's products in critical infrastructure projects, citing serious potential network security risks. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Niang also says no corporation should target third parties in response to the defense pact between Papua New Guinea and the United States. The Cyberspace Administration of China, which announced the decision, said the U.S. chipmaker had failed to pass a cybersecurity review. The news came shortly after the close of the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan, where leaders of major democracies raised their growing concerns over China. The Chinese regulator's decision came 7 weeks after it kicked off a cybersecurity review of Micron's products in apparent retaliation against sanctions imposed by Washington and its allies on China's chip sector. Micron is one of the largest memory chip maker in the United States. It derives more than 10% of its revenue from mainland China. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Okay, I wanted to take a report, but let's take this break. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
Can you do this?
No wahala.
How about this?
A superhero? And then no.
Nigeria is a country.
Peaceful advocacy and tolerance starts the journey to a united Nigeria. Over 250 ethnic groups, multiple religions, but we can rise above our differences. Diversity is celebrated, not a tool for oppression. Acknowledge and respect differences and work for the common good. Let's build a nation that works for citizens. It won't be easy, but together we can do it. Spread kindness, empathy, respect and understanding. Be a good ambassador yourself. Nigeria, better together.
This message is powered by the Presidential Transition Council, PTC.
Thanks for staying tuned. The world's biggest single-train petroleum refining facility, the Dangote Oil Refinery, capable of altering the global energy landscape, has been formally inaugurated. President Muhammadu Buhari, who performed the ceremony, described the event as a significant milestone for the nation's economy and a game-changer for the downstream petroleum products market in Africa. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that several West African leaders stood by to be counted at the remarkable event in solidarity.
Designed with state-of-the-art technology, the Dangote refinery, located at Ibeju, Lekki in Lagos State, covering a land area of approximately 2,635 hectares, has the capacity to process 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day. This will enable Nigeria to not only achieve self-sufficiency in all liquid products of gasoline, diesel, kerosene and aviation fuel, but even have surplus for export. The refining plant, when fully operational, will see Nigeria netting $21 billion per annum.
This commissioning ceremony is just the beginning of a great journey. We will replicate this sector, what we have actually achieved in the cement and fertilizer markets.
The NMPC Limited will continue to support investment in domestic refining to satisfy growing demands for refined petroleum products in both local and regional markets.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, it is a show of Nigeria's appreciation to Alhaji Aliko Dangote for once again putting the country on the global map through his bold, visionary and courageous investments aimed at transforming the economy.
I urge and encourage our other great entrepreneurs to emulate this iconic Nigerian industrialist and join the government in accelerating our growth in order to realize our country's globally recognized economic potential.
The Dangote mega industry, he said, is a clear example of what can be achieved when entrepreneurs are encouraged and an enabling environment created for investments and businesses to thrive. The president is, however, emphatic that for the Africa we want to be created, economies must be integrated, barriers to trade eliminated, and foreign powers be resisted from destabilizing the continent's economic and political trajectory.
I am confident that my successor, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will sustain the improvement in our economic and business environment, and strengthen the framework of our public partnership policies to accelerate the pace of our economic growth and development. I am happy to leave our economy in very competent hands.
And I congratulate this distinguished patriotic son of Africa for the sheer brilliance of this initiative. You've come from far and near because we are all very proud of you and your achievements. With this great investment that inspired respect and admiration here in Nigeria is certainly helping to give opportunity to industrialize our continent.
The $18.5 billion investment, the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, was prompted by the company's desire to contribute its quota to the sustained efforts at transforming Nigeria's economy.
History is made in Nigeria. The credit goes to you, Mr. President, and I believe that this is a long-lasting legacy that you take away as you bow out. The incoming administration will do whatever possible to upscale and sustain the tempo of this project.
Now, as Aliko Dangote has done this, the conversation is how many Dangotes are we going to build? We need to replicate the likes of Aliko Dangote.
The Dangote Industries Limited is one of Africa's largest industrial conglomerates with an annual turnover in excess of $4 billion. From Ibeju Lekki, Lagos State, at Musambo, NTA News.
The federal government has rejected a proposal for birds vaccination against avian influenza, also known as bird flu. The rejection is coming as the World Animal Health Organization called on the government to adopt vaccination for the control of the disease. Nigerian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Mohammed Abubakar, has declared that the federal government's policy on no vaccination for control of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, otherwise known as bird flu, in the country has not changed.
Economic evidence is available to the Committee on Merit and Demerit of the vaccination or no vaccination, best global practices, as well as the recommendations of the World Organization for Animal Health, WAHO. The committee recommends that the country should stick to the no vaccination policy for now. Though the committee noted that the country might want to change her policy to vaccinate against HPAI in future, it recommends some activities to be carried out before considering the option of vaccination against HPAI as a policy for the country.
All right, joining us to expand the discourse is Dr. Bala Mohammed. He's the Vice President, Veterinary Council of Nigeria. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for joining us on the news.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, at a world conference, Bird Flu Veterinary World Body called for the adoption of birds' vaccination against avian influenza. Why is this so necessary?
Well, thank you so very much. Remember that there was a time we had a strategy of no vaccination in the country, and it is actually based on some facts available to the Technical Working Committee on the Control of Avian Influenza. So avian influenza is one disease that is of a very grave concern to the public health, and it has a way of spreading to humans from animals by way of vaccinating the birds, and then you have the viral droplets in the environment that becomes very important when it comes to public health, that is the human health concern. So it isn't difficult, but it is a lot of pressure on government when you look at the initial strategy of trying to to stamp out the birds based on we don't vaccinate, but once there is an outbreak, you try to contain it by way of stamping out the birds and then getting compensated, the farmers getting compensated. Unfortunately, the resources are dwindling, and it is becoming really a very big concern when it comes to the economy.
All right, Dr. Mohammed, sorry to cut in there, but we've seen Nigeria and America kicking against this vaccination. What's your view on that, very briefly, please?
Well, I don't think they are kicking against vaccination, but the authorities are kicking against it based on the consequences that comes with vaccination. There are a lot of this, the causative organisms, that is the germ itself, that is present in the vaccines that will also complicate our situation when it comes to really having a very good control strategy. So the concern here on the side of the authorities is that we need to know the serotypes that is in circulation that is causing losses on the side of the farmers, but also before we now introduce vaccines that will be very effective in controlling the current challenge that we have. Now, it's a little bit of a technical thing.
All right, Dr. Balam. Okay, go ahead. Few seconds, please. Go ahead.
So it's a little bit difficult, you know, to take a stand because farmers are losing, and then the whole essence of government and governance is to actually provide support and then to protect the people's lives and livelihood. So the whole idea is that the government need to know what kind of serotype of the virus that is in circulation, and then what type of vaccines should we actually go for before they can make pronouncement for a vaccination regime as a strategy in controlling avian influenza.
All right, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on the news, Dr. Bala Mohammed.
Thank you so very much for having me. Good evening.
All right, and that's where we end the news. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Precious Ozomina. Bye.